You had a really interesting Substack recently. I think it was about 50 Shades. I don't know, was that the book? It was generally about bestsellers.
Yeah.
And what it landed for me is a thought that I have had many times is as an author, I don't want my books to end up in airport bookstores.
Oh, I think you do though. Do you know why?
Because that's what sells.
Because if you think about like I always think about this blog post from it was I don't know a long time ago. Roxane Gay wrote it, and it was like too many of us, too much noise, and it was about literary magazines, but it was just about like there's just too much, and like most people just kind of like can't consume all of this. It's impossible to even know everything that's happening. There's so much romance. There's so much everything, and I think we appreciate the value of curation and the places that are curating. And it's not purely based on this is a good book and therefore I'm going to curate this into a short list. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes influencing what is curated and how. But there is so much power in being one of the 5 romance books in an airport bookstore or going to Barnes and Noble and being on that front round table that says big on book talk or going into the grocery store and again like being one of a few titles because not only does that mean that you're being distributed in a huge number of places, but then also in consumers' minds they go in there and they're like, oh, that represents to me romance authors, this is who is big and important. And every time I go to an airport or if I see any sort of like small romance collection in a store, I always take a picture because for me, it's a reminder that what I'm reading isn't necessarily what everybody else is reading, you know? Because
Hmm.
I'm kind of like, oh my God, I didn't even know Danielle Steele was still publishing, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think for me, I think one of the points you made in your Substack was the people who are reading Fourth Wing. I think that was the book that you were
Mm,
primarily talking about, and 50 Shades just got in there somehow. The people who are reading Fourth Wing are not people who read either romance or fantasy. They're
mhm,
people who are picking up a book and saying, oh, hey, this is fun.
mhm,
And
mhm,
I think I, okay, obviously there's a part of me that would like to be a bestseller and
mhm.
also would like to be considered representative of the romance genre. But at the same time, the artist in me,
The
I am
artiste.
writing, yes. My books are written, I'm thinking so much about what else is going on in romance, and it's in conversation with these other romance books
Mhm,
or these other history books that I've read that I kind of want my reader to be bringing to the page with them.
mhm.
Not that I assume everyone has read the same romance books, but once you're like reading
Yeah.
romance, historical romance at a certain pace, like you're bringing stuff with you.
Mhm,
That's like my ideal reader. And so the airport reader who has never read historical romance before, doesn't even know what a viscount
mhm,
is gonna lose something. And so I think
mhm.
that's why I feel kind of like, oh, I don't want that.
Mm. Yeah, that's I mean, it's interesting because I guess on the one hand, I kind of feel like the the power of you're 100% right. Um, the power of the airport bookstore is in a way that it's just signifying this is a book you should read. And a lot of people kind of take that pretty much at face value. They're like, thank you for curating because I was not going to look through 100 books. So I think that in terms of getting awareness, like, hey, this book exists, it's incredibly powerful. But I mean, you're bringing up a great point, right? Which is no understanding your audience and understanding what it is that you're creating and who it's for. I think about this as a podcaster all the time. Like, do I go or and as a substacker too, like do I go more accessible where I talk about basically like romance 101 type things where I explain a lot about, like what is this trope or, let me just talk about the big book everybody else is talking about or again, like I mean just like making a very accessible conversation where you can come into it without needing to build on any other previous knowledge specifically about this topic. So I'm like I could do that, and then I'm like but I don't want to.
Yes.
and and I mean, and like it's like I had to kind of make a choice at some point, right? Like which direction am I going in? And as long as I am aware of what I'm doing and then I set my expectations appropriately, I need to be good with that. Like Yeah, okay,
Hmm.
guess what? I'm going to be super niche and a little more academic than I even should be sometimes. But that's really what I'm enjoying doing. And the reason I'm doing this is for my own self-interest and for other people who want to do that. So I think, I mean, just to kind of like bring that into being an author, I think it's like you have to make the same choice, right? Like, what's it about for you? If it's about becoming a massive bestseller, you probably should write your books a little bit differently than if your goal is to like write the book of your heart and have it find readers who are going to appreciate that, like what you've put in there. And so, and I think it's totally valid to create for more reasons than just commercial success, you know?
Hmm.
I mean, bring it back to Secrets of a Summer Night. I mean, like just this, like what do we value in society? Lisa Kleypas values capitalism, okay? Like just to be clear. And she's very good at it. She's
She might be
she's
in an airport bookstore.
yes, absolutely. Right. So I think, yeah, no, but I think that it's perfectly, I think it's great for us as creators to take a step back and be like, well, yeah, I mean, I would totally take the millions of dollars that being a bestseller might give me. And, like all the exposure, this is all great. But if you're kind of like, yeah, but actually I don't want to do that. Like I actually wouldn't want to have to do all these things or to I don't want to write that kind of book. That's not really what interests me. Then you also kind of have to like be like, okay, then I'm letting go of some of the other things, you know?
Right. I might not be able to make a living off of it, but I'm still going to write, sort of trade
Right.
off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which as an artiste.
Artists have been making that trade off for centuries.
Indeed, indeed.